I think that we can say with some degree of authority that AEW loves surprises. I mean, look what happened over the weekend. Tony Khan is always like, oh, I've got this surprise, I've got that surprise. And because I think surprises are the best thing in wrestling, I'm always going to say, give me more. But as we've just had another one that has set the internet on fire, as they always do, I, Simon Miller here at What Culture Wrestling, thought it would be a great idea to go through every single AEW surprise to date and rank the worst from the best. But I don't like this word worst for everything I just said about surprises, so I'm just instead going to call it jelly beans. Because I like jelly beans, I've made myself laugh because I'm a moron, so let's rank them from jelly beans to best. No, I wouldn't watch me either. Number 15, The Dark Order. All the evidence you need in your life to remember, always give things time and let them play out. The Dark Order's journey within All Elite Wrestling is kind of like the relationships I get into in my own life. At first, they may not like me, but after a little while, they will be on my side. That's the second time I popped myself with somebody please help me. But yeah, well over a year ago, Being the Elite was teasing that the Super Smash Brothers were going to turn up, but when they did, every single person, including me, just looked in the ring and went, well, I don't know who that is, and because of that, I don't really know how to react. And look, they did attack TH2 and the Best Friends at the first ever Double or Nothing, but even then, it was almost like somebody from the crowd had run in there, but we don't even need to worry about that anymore because look how good all of these guys are today. The Dark Order is integral to everything that AEW does, and if you are a regular watcher of Being the Elite, they're funny every single time. So they have taken this concept and they have run with it, and now Evil Uno and Stu Grayson and John Silver, I love every single one of you. Number 14, The Butcher, the Bunny and the Blade. When this trio did debut on the 27th of November 2019 Dynamite to take out Cody Rhodes, Jim Ross said, well, who are these people and what are their intentions? And while he was right, I was also a bit like, JR, can you tell me? Because I actually don't know. Excalibur did jump in and said, well, Jim, it's The Butcher and the Bunny and the Blade. And I was like, well, that's great, but it still doesn't really help me, aside from the fact I really want to go to their shop and order some meat. So this quickly did fall into Dark Order territory, where I suppose the company was giving us too much respect and we needed our hands held. But once again, look what they've done ever since. Are Butcher and the Blade and the Bunny one of the best teams in all of All Elite Wrestling? They absolutely are. And they just have this unique look to them that draws in your eyes. The justification for all of it was that Maxwell Jacob Friedman had brought them into the company so they could go take out Cody, because of course he hated them. So once again, it started kind of low, but then it started to glow. Number 13, Miro. I was over the moon when Miro, the former Rusev, turned up on the 9th of September 2020 Dynamite, because I just knew sooner rather than later, finally, we were going to be able to allow him to reach his potential. And yes, I'll be honest, maybe right now we're not there, because I think what many of us expected if he ever did debut in AEW was that he'd just run through everyone and maybe even have a main event program with somebody like Jon Moxley, who was the world champion at the time. But we didn't do that, and instead he was like Kip Sabian's best friend and his best man, and he was going to be a gamer. He was kind of all relaxed for a little while, and it was a little bit of a head scratcher. But look, go back to the last two entries that we have talked about. The moment will come when all of a sudden we light a fire under Miro's ass and he becomes the destructive force that we all know he can be. So it still counts as a great surprise, but we're still waiting for the payoff. But look at me, look how patient I'm being. I'm happy to wait. Number 12, Matt Hardy. The wrestling industry as a whole, as we know, was massively affected by the pandemic. But when it comes to Matt Hardy and broken Matt Hardy, I swear, having no fans in the arena probably affected him more than most. Because when he did arrive on the 18th of March 2020, all we wanted to see was him go delete, 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 and 10,000 people go delete, delete, delete. Then if you knew what this was, you'd be all happy in your tum-tum, and if you didn't, you go, well, a bunch of people are shouting it, I'll do it, oh, it's really fun, I love Matt Hardy. And credit to AEW for coming up with editing tricks and other things of that nature to try and get like the hocus pocus stuff across, but unfortunately it just didn't land. But Matt Hardy is so smart, he realized this, he transformed himself into Big Money Matt, which actually may be a better gimmick and a better character for the time we're currently living in. I really did enjoy this one though, because I'm such a massive Matt Hardy fan, as I have brought up his name, as I've said 1,000 times, so I will say one more. He really should have had at least one run as WWE Champion. Don't at me. Number 11, Awesome Kong. I literally said to myself out loud the other day, where the hell is Awesome Kong? She was pretty damn good when AEW first started. Not when she was cutting people's hair, but then she vanished I don't really know why. With all that aside though, when she did make her debut at 2019's Double or Nothing, it was such a good surprise. Everybody in the audience knew who this was. They made a bunch of noise, and it was like the biggest star ever had just walked through the door. She also transformed a triple threat match between Britt Baker, Nyla Rose and Kylie Ray into a four-way, and straight away this was like a really good precedent that AEW was setting for their women's division, because listen to all the names that just came out of my mouth. And sure, the alliance with Brandy Rose and whatever the hell that thing was went a little bit off the rails, but again, you have to credit AEW, because they didn't drive it down our throats. Instead, they just killed it off. And honestly, that almost feels like it happened in a different reality. Still, it has been over a year since Awesome Kong wrestled a match, so as she has come up, bring her back. Awesome Kong always really good. Number 10, Jake Hager. We always knew that the first ever episode of AEW Dynamite was going to end with some kind of surprise, and All Elite Wrestling just so happened to pluck the former Jack Swagger, now known as Jake Hager, out their pocket and present him to the world. He laid out the Young Bucks as well as Cody Rhodes and Dustin Rhodes before basically forming the Inner Circle, and then he went on a 6-month undefeated streak. That ain't a bad way to debut anywhere. Since then, he's had somewhat of a strange run because honestly, most of the time he just fades into the background, but even then, he still manages to have his moments, like when he was staring at Wardlow, and then he was like, Wardlow, stop staring at me, and Wardlow's like, no, you stop staring at me. I still chuckle about that. I don't know why it was funny, it just was. So much like somebody like Miro, you have to imagine that his true highlight is just around the corner, but I like having him in All Elite Wrestling. I just think he fits. Number 9, Brian Cage. I think most people were pretty pleased that the last guy to enter the Double or Nothing 2020 Casino Ladder match was Brian Cage. Here you have a massive dude that so many people are going, well, AEW doesn't have any massive dudes that could also do like Spanish flies. It's like old and new wrestling coming together. The news had already leaked out there in January that this was going to happen, but he still got a pretty damn good response when he did debut in May, and he won that ladder match and challenged Jon Moxley for the World Championship, which once again just put him on the map. You look at it and go, oh, there's Kent and there's Brian Cage. He ultimately found his way into Team Taz too, and I don't mean to keep going on about this, but Team Taz is another group that started off kind of, well, yeah, they're okay, and now are flipping Fabu. And I don't make the rules, I just explain them to you. Number 8, Ricky Starks. When Ricky Starks did turn up on the 17th of June 2020 episode of Dynamite to challenge Cody Rhodes for his TNT title, I'm not ashamed to say, while I knew who he was, I hadn't seen much of his stuff. He'd already made quite a big impact of NWA Power, but left there after the pandemic hit. But within one evening, he not only had such a good performance that he was hired by Tony Khan basically on the spot, but also sent the message out like, hey, I got bags of potential, and if you don't believe in me, I'm just gonna kick you in the face. It's hilarious too, because in the vignette that we did see before he had this match, he is like your quintessential babyface. He's been working for years, he just wants a shot, now he's got it, he's gonna run around with a big smile on his face. And now, in like early 2021, he couldn't be a bigger bad guy if he tried, and he's so flipping good at it. So this ticks all my boxes, because I think when you do tune into a brand new wrestling program, you want to see brand new wrestling stars, and AEW has allowed me to learn all about Ricky Starks, and I look forward to learning even more. Number 7, the Good Brothers. As soon as Kenny Omega was done ruining Rey Fénix's life after they'd had their match on the second night of New Year's Smash and Jon Moxley ran out to come and beat up Kenny Omega, we got what I think was our first surprise of 2021 when it turned out that Impact Wrestling's The Good Brothers were turning up in AEW. This was really exciting anyway, because finally all this cross-promotional stuff was coming together, as Omega and Don Callis had talked about. But on a bigger picture, Kenny Omega, Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson, they'd been friends and buddies for ages, and now you were seeing that on your television screens. It was quite the sight to behold. I mean, honestly, if I had told you midway through last year that one of the earliest shows in the following year was going to end with these three people going, yeah, we did it, you wouldn't have believed me, and you would have slapped me around the face because, of course, tied to the title, it was a surprise. It also screamed of New Japan Wrestling and the Bullet Club, which sent the internet wild, and I always enjoy that. Let's always keep the conversation going. Number 6, Brody Lee. A sad one to talk about today for obvious reasons, but when Brody Lee, the former Luke Harper, did debut on the 18th of March 2020 AEW Dynamite, it was a double surprise because we also got Matt Hardy. It was like AEW just had this massive gun full of wrestlers and they were going to fire them all out. It was really smart as well because everybody had said, oh, it's going to be Matt Hardy who is the leader of the Dark Order. We switched that. We put Brody Lee in there instead. And I think we can all say without a shadow of a doubt, it's the best run that man ever had, and he smashed it every step of the way. It gets even more upsetting when you do learn that before the pandemic hit, this was going to go down in Rochester, New York, where Brody Lee was from. But I think we all just move that to one side and remember all the lovely stories we heard after he did pass away and remind ourselves that he was a damn good dude. Number 5, FTR. Now this one really wasn't a surprise. I mean, come the 27th of May 2020 Dynamite, if someone had said to me, Simon, do you think FTR is going to turn up this evening, or The Revival, I would have gone, I mean, I expect them to turn up ever since they've left WWE, because if they don't go there, why the hell are we smoking? And there was a little bit of a twist in the sense they saved the Young Bucks from a beatdown from the Butcher and the Blade, and the feud up to this point had been Matt and Nick Jackson against these two guys, but of course it was a ruse. And look where they are now. They're walking around flashing the 4 Horsemen symbol. And as I say these words, I don't even know what the hell is going on. It's also said for the first 2 months of doing this, they weren't actually under official contracts. And of course, that's been changed now. But let's be honest, Cash and Dax fit into this tag team scene like a glove over my hand. They're just really good at what they do. Number 4, Kenta. Tying into all the Good Brother stuff we talked about a couple of entries ago, when Kenta turned up and he was New Japan Kenta, nobody could handle it because the Forbidden Door was officially open and who the hell knew who else was going to come out of it. It went down after the Beach Break special when a masked man attacked Jon Moxley, and before you could even start to guess, Kenta did reveal himself. And honestly, if you were live on the internet at this time, it was almost impossible to read Twitter. Just like Kenta. That was me saying Kenta. It also led to the New Japan Strong match between these two, which Jon Moxley would mention on AEW Dynamite all the time. So when it comes down to surprises, this one may go down in history because it's going to spark a hell of a lot more as soon as we can start flying around the place again. Number 3, Christian Cage. Making his debut only this past weekend at AEW Revolution, the big tease that All Elite Wrestling had been teasing was of course Christian Cage. And I thought this was flipping excellent, I thought this was flipping faboo, and I did see some small corners of the internet being super negative, and I don't understand it at all. So as I said on Ups and Downs, let's just go through all the categories. Is he a Hall of Fame worthy candidate? Yes. Is he going to be able to have a bunch of dream matches with people on that roster? Yes. And 3, shouldn't we be looking at it from the point that Christian was told a few years ago, oh, sorry, Christian, you're never going to be able to wrestle again. And now not only is he back, but he just appeared in AEW, which keeps getting better and better, and it's really exciting. I just don't get it. I thought this was absolutely excellent. And if we had done it in front of a full arena, they would have lost their damn minds and it would have made you feel all warm and fuzzy in your tum-tum. I don't care that he's 47 years old, wherever the hell he is, he has never gotten his due, he has always been underrated, and he's always been under-deserved. I don't know what that one means, but I was very happy to see Christian Cage in AEW, and from this point on, I am going to be his biggest supporter. Probably going to be Edge, but what are you going to do? Number 2, Sting. Now this should be number 1 really, and now I've said it, I don't know why it's not. But when Sting did arrive and debut in AEW, I am not ashamed to say that in that 24-hour period, I must have watched it around about 642 times. I mean, everything from the music to the video where it just goes S-T-I-N-G to the reaction, it was just so good. It gave me chills and reminded you that Sting is a legend. Sting has an aura. It doesn't matter that he's 61 years old. I was just so happy to see him back on TNT. You also had that great moment when he went to Cody Rhodes and Arn Anderson and Darby Allin and stared off with all of them, and ever since then, he's just been on a tear. I mean, you've seen how he's been moving around, plus he took a powerbomb from Brian Cage. I know everyone says this every time, Simon, you're so biased towards Sting, you're damn right I am, I can't even talk, what are you gonna do about it? I mean, it was just nuts, it was just nuts, it was the talk of the wrestling world, it did crazy numbers on YouTube, and as soon as I'm finished recording, I'm gonna go watch it again. Number 1, Jon Moxley. If you wanna remember how good wrestling is when we have a crowd, just type in Jon Moxley debuts in AEW and prepare for all your happy genes to come spilling out of your stomach. It also happened after the first Double or Nothing main event when Kenny Omega had just lost to Chris Jericho, and seeing Jericho just staring at Jon Moxley going, you don't work here, why are you here? Before he gave him the Death Rider or the Paradigm Shift or whatever you want to call it. It is just a moment in time, especially because then he goes to Kenny Omega and he gets whooped too. And nobody knew it then, but Mox was about to become one of the most pivotal parts of the entire company. and look where he is now, and try and imagine AEW without him. I don't want to be that guy, but when it does come to Dean Ambrose, I think WWE may have dropped the ball. Now, don't forget to leave a comment below and let us know what you think about all the AEW surprises, which was your favorites and which was Jelly Bean, or whatever the hell I said back in the video. Like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Head over to whatculture.com, read yourself some articles, watching videos here on What Culture Wrestling, why the hell not, and make sure you follow us on social media. My name is Simon What Culture. Thank you for watching me. As always, make sure you do go check out Ups and Downs for AEW Revolution. My word, do we get into it deep. I will see you on the next one.